Hi, my name is Rick Thomas. I'm treasurer of the local Brookville Masonry, number 596. I've been in about 5 years, so I'm going to give you a little tour and let you learn something about Masons. Masonry has been around for thousands of years. The Masons who built the temples, built the pyramids, that's where Masonry come from. And of course there is a profession which is called Masonry, which is block laying. Okay, and when the United States was formed, why we're called the Great Experiment was because prior to that time there were no democracies. Democracy, the idea of people running the government instead of the government running the people, had never been tried. So there was no structure in existence to build the nation. But the founding fathers were basically all Masons, from Washington to Jefferson to Adams to Franklin. So when they formed the United States Constitution, the Congress, the Bill of Rights, that was based upon the principles of Freemasonry. And so all through the existence of the United States of America, Masonry has played a key part. And that's why in Washington, D.C., you'll see Masonic symbols all over Washington, because that's what built the United States of America's free democracy. Interesting fact. Okay. This is what's called our lodge. This is basically where we hold meetings. We bring in new folks who like to learn about us. And basically, this is just kind of where we show who we are, and we're very community oriented. For example, we have scholarships to the local high school. At the community picnic every year, we work the gates, which means that we're the people who show the cars in, introduce people to the community picnic. Any donations, we take those for the Chamber of Commerce, and we help keep it a safe things for the community. We're getting more and more community oriented. We're bringing the community together. We're trying to support the schools, the police, the community, buy from each other, hire from within, and we have a huge number of law enforcement, firefighters, military, business leaders in the community. So it's a great group of people. Our motto is making good men better. And that's what we do. So if you know any good men who'd like to be better, we'd love to talk to them. Okay. So this is just the front hallway. This building we're in was built in the 1860s, which was right after the Civil War. It used to have a third story on it. Well, there was a fire decades ago, and they had to take that third story off. So this was, imagine, almost 200 years ago when this was built, what this would have been like back in those days, because this was a heavy farming area. And the owner of this building, he was the guy who basically built Brookville, okay? And he was a farmer, as most people were back then. So he would go up on his third story roof, and he had a catwalk walkway, and he'd walk around, and he could look over his land, and he'd see the wagons and the people working, and just do his business, okay? Well, excuse me. Eventually, Mr. Hayes, which was the owner, builder, his family, died out, and it went through like 2 or 3 different owners, and there was a distiller who was a very, very wealthy individual who owned this property back in the early 20th century. And he wound up going bankrupt during Prohibition. So he lost everything, okay? So he had to sell the building. And there's been like a doctor's office in here, a couple of businesses. Well, in 1940, the Masons bought the building, the Brookville Chapter 596 Masons. And in 3 years, they had their mortgage burning. So it took them just 3 years to pay this off. So we've had it ever since then. We currently have a little over 200 members, and we're really growing quickly now because we had a large group of people, which is now older people, who didn't really change with the times. They didn't get the new ways to introduce people, market. So our young guys are phenomenal. They're coming in, I say young, 30s, 40s, 50s. They come in, we're now doing Facebook, we're doing, open houses, and we're really growing quickly. We're very community oriented. Our goal is to bring the community together through the schools, through the, rebuild the family structures, support the local police, firefighters, and we just try to be the best men that we can be. This is the one of the meeting rooms. You'll see along the wall, these are what we call past masters. The master is like the president for the year, or the coach, you might call him. And it's really interesting. This used to be Dr. Thomas used to have his office here. And a lot of the people who were children that are now older people, they had Dr. Thomas as like their family doctor. So that's interesting. We try to keep as much original structures as we possibly could, because this lodge, this building, is known within the Mason structure by a lot of people, because nobody has a lodge like this. The lodges are normally just buildings, but this one is so special. So when people come to this one, they really want to come to it. So, okay, and go over here. Some more of our masters there. This is where we have our dining area. This fireplace is very, very interesting. Back in the 1860s, when this was built, fireplaces were the only thing they had to keep the building warm, obviously. So this is one of the original fireplaces. They had fireplaces, I guess, all over this building, because again, that's the only way to keep heat. But this young lady is the daughter of the original owner who built the building back in the 1860s. And occasionally we have to clean it up, because people they'll touch the nose, for example, but they get the oil and it starts turning her face dark, so we have to clean it up. So, and you'll notice this room has very tall doors, and even the ceiling is beautifully, it's just a beautiful ceiling. I like to tell people there were giants who lived here, but that's not true. The reason the doors are so tall is back then, the only airflow they had was when they'd have the windows and the doors open. So they got these tall doors to keep the airflow going, to keep the heat down, okay? And well, I can say they're giants. Giants built this place. This is our little kitchen area. We're having an open house today, so you'll see folks here, just local community people that just like to see, what's wrong. But that's the kitchen area there. And I'll go take you upstairs.
The biggest thing is, the big stairwell and all that. Yeah, that's it.
So when this was a residence, this whole upper level was just normal living quarters, like bedrooms, sitting rooms, that type of thing. So when the Masons got the building in 1940, they took this section and they cleaned it out, because this is our main meeting room area. So I'll show you that. This is where we sign in for meetings and stuff. We have an elevator that about 20 years ago we set up, because so many of our members simply couldn't climb the stairs. So we had to put an elevator in.
Yes.
So this is where we have our meetings, entertain guests. You'll see different tables around certain areas. Those are for the officers. I personally am I'm a treasurer this year, so my desk is over there, and that's where what we call the worshipful master, which is like the head guy, and we say worshipful out of simple respect. He sits over there, and the different tables and chairs are for different people. You'll notice on this altar, you'll see the Holy Bible. We are a society who has secrets. We're not a secret society. We're very open, but within our fraternity, as all fraternities and all sororities, you have certain things you do. You have certain symbols, you have certain procedures, different degrees you go through, and those are very tightly held because that's what keeps us strong. It's like my son is in the military, Army Special Forces. There's things I'd love to know, but he just can't tell me because he took the oath. Well, we're the same way. We take an oath of secrecy for our internal structure, but we're very open to the public. Like I said, we support the local schools. We give scholarships. We support the local community picnic. We work the gates where we, bring people in, get them parked, introduce them to Brookville community, that type of a thing. And we are in process of going through not a redirection, but adding on to what we've always been. We're going to be beginning to support the local community very, very, very strongly. We want to start rebuilding the families. We want to support the police. We want to support the firefighters, the first responders, our schools. Brookville is blessed with an excellent school system. We have good teachers. We have good administrators. Many of the people here are community leaders. For example, the Brookville chief of police is one of our brothers. We have business leaders. We have teachers, firefighters, police, good people. Our motto is making good men better. So if you're a good man, and you want to be a better man, we'd love to talk to you. So, and as you see the American flag. Every meeting when we open up, we pray, ask for God's guidance and God's mercy. We pledge allegiance to our flag of our country, and then we have our meetings. A lot of things you'll see, a lot of things around the wall. You see on the angels. You'll see like ships that are in the ocean. The old ships where before they would go out, they would pray and ask for God's mercy on them. And you'll see pillars. The pillars have certain meanings. And it's really interesting. I can't remember if I mentioned this or not, but when the United States of America was being formed back in 1776, there was no structure to build a free nation. All nations at that time were monarchies, they were dictatorships, or that type of thing. So a free society did not exist. There had never been an example of what a true free society was. Where the people were the boss, not the government. But fortunately, our founding fathers, Jefferson, Franklin, Adams, they were all Masons. And so what they had is they had the structure of Masonry where every person got an equal vote. You made these decisions by the majority. So they formed our nation, our Congress, our laws, our Constitution, our Declaration of Independence was all formed off of the concepts of Freemasonry. So if it wasn't for Freemasonry, we would not have a country. That's why when you go through Washington, D.C., you'll see the Masonic symbol all over the place, because that's what formed the United States to be a free country. Really interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's pretty well got this. Let's see what else we have.
And that's the other thing.
Yeah, there's the elevator for the folks who can't make it up the stairs. And then there's the rooms here. This room right here is simply when we have certain ceremonies we go through. This is where the guys will come in and they'll get dressed for like that ceremony. Then they'll be taken into the meeting room. So. All right, come back down.
That's right, that's right. It's all about the sleep.
Yep.
Yes. Need that. Very important.
It's really interesting. That staircase, this was a residence that was, they had a spiral staircase that went upstairs. And back in, I'll call it the old days, you would have what they call debutantes, where young ladies would be introduced to society, introduced to like the community, introduced to the young men of the time, and they would have the young ladies, they would go down that spiral staircase, and then they would be introduced to the community. And so this building, in its day, figure 1860, a building like this was unheard of. There was nothing like it. And so everybody from all over came here to have their daughters be introduced. So I think that's a pretty neat history. I think that's about it. So again, if you'd like more information about Freemasonry, we'd love to talk to you.
Right.